There are cars, and then there are cars that became something more, something that went far beyond metal, engines, and wheels, something that became part of culture, part of memory, part of entire generations, because while most vehicles are designed to take people from one place to another, a rare few end up telling stories, appearing on screens, and becoming unforgettable, and when that happens, those cars stop being just machines, they become characters, they become symbols, they become something people recognize instantly, even decades later. And if you think about it, some of the most famous cars in the world are not known because of how fast they are or how rare they are, but because of the moments they created in films, moments that stayed with people long after the credits rolled. And maybe no car represents that better than the DeLorean DMC-12, a car that, before appearing in Back to the Future, was actually struggling in the real world. It wasn't a major commercial success, it wasn't dominating roads, but everything changed the moment it became a time machine. Suddenly, this stainless steel car with its futuristic lines and gullwing doors was no longer just a vehicle, it was a portal to different eras, something capable of traveling through time, and that idea alone transformed it into one of the most recognizable cars ever made. And when you see it, you don't just see a car, you hear the sound, you remember the scenes, you think about the concept of time itself, and that's something very few vehicles have ever achieved. Then there's the Batmobile, a machine that has taken many forms over the years, yet has always carried the same presence, aggressive, mysterious, and unmistakably powerful. And what makes the Batmobile so unique is that it was never meant to feel realistic, it was designed to reflect the character of Batman himself, dark, complex, and intimidating. From the early television versions based on futuristic prototypes to the more militarized tumblers seen in modern films, each version tells a different story, yet they all share one thing in common: the ability to instantly capture attention, to feel like something that belongs in a world just slightly beyond reality. When it comes to pure driving intensity, few cars have left a mark like the Ford Mustang Fastback 1968, made famous in the film Bullitt. And if you've ever seen that legendary chase scene through the streets of San Francisco, you understand exactly why this car is remembered the way it is. There's something raw about it, something real, no exaggerated effects, no unrealistic physics, just a powerful machine being pushed to its limits, and that sense of authenticity changed how car chases were filmed forever, making the Mustang not just a car in a movie, but a central part of one of the most iconic moments in cinematic history. The world of espionage introduced something different with the Aston Martin DB5, a car that combined elegance with hidden danger. Appearing in the James Bond films as more than just transportation, it was equipped with gadgets, weapons, and features that made it feel like an extension of the character himself, refined on the outside, but capable of far more than it seemed, and that combination of luxury and functionality created a new standard, a car that wasn't just stylish, but intelligent, prepared, and always one step ahead. Then there's the Ferrari 250 GT California Spider, a car that represents something entirely different, not power or technology, but desire, freedom, and consequence, because in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, this rare and beautiful Ferrari becomes the center of one of the most memorable moments in the film. A symbol of something almost too perfect to exist, and when it's lost in that unforgettable scene, it creates a moment that audiences never forget, not because of speed or performance, but because of what it represented and how quickly it disappeared. Some cars didn't just appear in films, they developed personalities of their own, like the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, known as KITT, a car that could think, speak, and act, turning it into something closer to a companion than a machine. And for many people, this was the first time a car felt alive, not just responsive, but aware, capable of making decisions and interacting with its driver. And while the technology seemed futuristic at the time, today we see glimpses of that idea becoming reality, making KITT feel less like fiction and more like a vision of what was coming. The Cadillac Miller Meteor brought something completely different, a design that stood out immediately, not because it was sleek or fast, but because it was unusual, almost chaotic, filled with equipment, details, and a personality that matched the tone of Ghostbusters. And that's what made it unforgettable. It didn't try to look like a perfect car, it embraced its uniqueness, becoming something that people could instantly recognize, even from a distance. In a darker, more intense world, the Ford Falcon XB-GT became a symbol of survival, a car that looked aggressive, worn, and powerful, perfectly matching the harsh environment of Mad Max. And unlike many other cars on this list, this one didn't feel polished or refined, it felt dangerous, unpredictable, like a machine built for a world where rules no longer existed, and that raw energy made it one of the most memorable vehicles ever put on screen. The modern era introduced a new kind of icon with the Chevrolet Camaro, a car that didn't just appear in a movie, it transformed, literally, into something else, creating a connection between machine and character that felt entirely new, and in doing so, it reintroduced the Camaro to a new generation, proving that a strong cinematic presence can reshape how people see a car in the real world. And finally, there's the Ford Mustang Shelby GT500, a car that wasn't just driven, but chased, pursued, and remembered as if it had its own identity, even its own name, Eleanor, and that alone changes how people connect with it, because giving a car a name transforms it into something more personal, something that feels alive in a different way, and when you combine that with one of the most intense chase scenes ever filmed, you end up with a vehicle that stays in people's minds long after the film ends. When you look at all of these cars together, something becomes clear: they're not just famous because of what they are, but because of what they represent, each one tied to a moment, a feeling, a story that people remember, and that's what turns a car into an icon, not just design, not just performance, but the ability to create something unforgettable, something that connects with people on a deeper level. And maybe that's why these cars continue to matter, because even as technology evolves and new vehicles are introduced, the stories behind these machines remain, reminding us that sometimes, a car can be much more than just a way to get from one place to another. Sometimes, it can become a legend.